And nice and simple, just like that, Jay. We are into another interview here on the Long Box Punk. That's me. I'm Chris. I'm the Long Box Punk. He is Jay. Jay, thanks for hanging out with me and spending some time to talk about your upcoming campaign and just comics in general. I appreciate you being on.
I appreciate you having me on, Chris. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. I not to, brag on myself, but I've been reading your books for a while now. I don't know if you can see in the background here, I've got
Yeah, I
Incision
saw that.
#1. Right behind that on the stand is Abducted, the
Oh,
full
nice.
collection.
Yeah.
Um, and I've got all sorts of just goodies that you have thrown into all of your campaigns, bookmarks and stickers and
Yeah.
postcards and all the good stuff. I have
Try
a
to make
whole
it fun.
stack of
I like it when
Kickstarter.
people open the box and it's just like, oh, look at all
So
this
much stuff. I
this
think
cool
I
stuff.
did, not to like completely derail everything, but that's where we're going. I actually did an unboxing video when I got Incision, and I just kept pulling stuff out, and I was like, good, what didn't you put in here? Like
Yeah.
everything is here.
That was my first campaign like that I fulfilled myself, and so I'd done some smaller ones with friends before that, but that was like the first
Mhm.
major one. So yeah, just kind of I was like, how can we make this, really, really special?
Yeah. I mean, it immediately I was just like, I don't know of anybody else that puts this much like extra stuff into their rewards. So as somebody that loves swag, I was a big fan and was like, all right, so
Nice.
everything he backs, I'm just going to keep seeing what else he puts out. And not to again get really ahead, but you've already been teasing some of the cool stuff that you've got lined up for this second campaign, which we'll get into. Because again, I'm jumping in. We're familiar, but for those that don't know, I would love to hear your origin story, like how you got into um, making comics and like how we ended up with this campaign for Incision issues 1 and 2 here in 2024.
Yeah, so I mean, I was got into comics at an early age, born in the '80s, so bought them at gas stations and grocery stores back when you could do that,
Yep.
and then later on, going to comic book shops, and then I'd say late teens, early 20s, I got into wanting to make my own, and I was always kind of the art kid, and so. Some friends of mine and I, we kind of did like a little web anthology, like a web comic
Mm,
anthology project, and this is like around 2005-ish.
okay.
And it was called Three Word Challenge. So we'd pick 3 words, and you had to make a comic with those 3 words as the theme.
Okay.
3 panels minimum, or no maximum. You could be as big as you want, as long as you want. And we did that a few times, like maybe 6 or 7 times. Had it on like a blog. We were probably the only ones who ever saw it, before social media and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So that was fun. That was kind of, it looked, my stuff, I wouldn't want to show that today, but I certainly grew a lot as an artist, just kind of
Yeah.
figuring things out. Um, so it's kind of cutting my teeth on that. And then I made a few like just kind of one-shot comics around like the mid 2000s. Printed like a handful, didn't really do much with it. Didn't really know how to this whole world of like conventions and
Mm,
crowdfunding and stuff. Like, had no idea. Like, I'd never been to a convention. So yeah, just kind of did it, but didn't really put it out there. And they still weren't like the quality that I would want people seeing anyway. And so kind of kept at that over the years, just kind of working in the shadows. And then around like 2017 or so, my friend Zach and I decided to pick up an old idea we had started 10 years earlier and abandoned, and bring it back and make it like a graphic novel length
mm,
story. Because we're like, man, we're getting into our 30s. If we don't do something like, we'll regret it the rest of our life. We should at least make this one thing, like have
yeah.
something that we, can be proud of. So we made it originally as a web comic, but I drew it in the standard comic format because I love print more than anything. And I
Yeah.
knew, if I finish this, I'm definitely going to make a print edition. And so we had it online for a while, and kind of hard to get people to look at free web comics. I found out like
Turns
extremely
out, yeah.
hard. Turns out if you charge for something, I think you can get more eyeballs on it than giving it away for free, which is weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we did that, made the whole series, started like 2018, really in earnest, finished it up in 2020. I had a lot of free time in 2020, like a lot of people. So I caught up on like the last third half of that project, just was able to knock it out that year. The end of 2020, we printed, it was 5 issues total, printed all the issues all at once, all together, and sold it as box sets, kind
Mm.
of friends and family and online, through social media. That was a lot of fun. Learned a lot through like fulfilling and selling and marketing that way.
Yeah.
And then hooked up with lesser known comics later on and decided to put out Abducted as a trade paperback, which is the one you have, and loaded up with bonus content in the back and made it really cool and special. And from there, I just kept at it, kept making comics. Made a comic called The Body with Billy
Mm.
Diamond Jr., good buddy of mine, and we did that one on Kickstarter. Did an anthology called Superposition, a couple issues of that, and then after that, I was like, what am I going to do next? And I was reading through some old Wolverine comics from the early '90s
Yeah.
because by that point, I don't know if you're like this, but the older I get, like I'm looking more and more at the older stuff that I grew up with and less at the newer stuff. Not that
Yep.
there's not awesome new stuff out there. I just connect more with the stuff I grew up on, and like that's just what interests me. So I was picking up like new, like trade paperbacks, like new editions of these,
Mm.
comics I had when I was a kid,
Yep.
and like Larry Hama era, Mark Silvestri era X or Wolverine, X Men,
Yep.
stuff like that. Jim Lee X Men. I was flipping through all this stuff. I'm like, this is what I wish was, the standard, kind of superhero comic of today. This is what I would like to read.
Yeah.
I was like, well, that's not what anybody's in the big two are doing. So, I should just make the comic I want to read, as best I can. You set your target and then you come in wherever you come in
Yeah.
and you try to shoot for that target. So that's really the origin of Incision. Came up with, a heavily Wolverine, X-Men, mutant inspired character and world. But I like to put my own spin on it. So it's not, when you're reading it, it's, hopefully not just, oh, this is a ripoff of this, or this is a
Right.
ripoff of this.
Right.
I'm taking that as sort of a base mark, and then kind of telling a story I want to tell through it, and
Mm.
using things like some like sci-fi and cyberpunk elements, and a little bit of dystopian elements, things like that. Just things that I enjoy from movies and comics, and just kind of putting them all into this world. And so, actually, that's the first issue there. So yeah, put it all in there. Came up with a 5 issue kind of storyline, so it'll be a mini series. It's 5 issues in total.
Okay.
So yeah, put the first issue, drew it, got it all put together. That was a few years ago, and then launched it, or about a year ago. Launched it on Kickstarter January this year, 2024. That went really well. Had a good time with that. And so while that was going, I was finishing up number 2.
Mm.
And now I've got number 2, 1 and 2, launching a campaign for both of those August 27th. And then I'm drawing issue 3 right now, and about halfway done with that. So it's going pretty well. It's going faster than I thought. So yeah, that's kind of the overview of me getting into indie comics and up to where I am now. So yeah.
That's great. You said a couple things that I love hearing on this show, of the like, I was looking around and I didn't see the book that I wanted to read, so I just figured, okay, I'll make that book. And
Yeah.
like that's so very like at the core of just the DIY mindset that is common with a lot of the creators that aren't just showing up on the show, but also like that are just out there doing the thing of like, well, I have this story and this is what I'm into and no one else is doing that, so I'm just going to do it so that it's out there. and then you end up finding your audiences. And like reading the first issue, like I backed the first one after I backed Abducted because I really liked the artwork in that story. And so when I saw Incision, I was like, man, that cover with the color gradient, it just like it pops so clean. And I was just like, this looks so awesome. And he's got the mohawk, and he's got these giant spike blades, and I was just like, yeah, no, I'm in. Like I'm in. And so reading it, I know we mentioned it, but it's worth talking about, officially on air, of just like, it's so very much nostalgia for me reading it. Like, because I similarly was reading Jim Lee's X-Men, like, and Larry Hama's Wolverine. Like, those were the books that I kept going back to the comic shop with my dad to buy. And then also I was buying like Savage Dragon and kind of dipping my toes in Spawn a little bit, but we were a Catholic family. So like all the devilry and hell stuff, I was like, I'm not allowed to read that. I don't like, as a kid, I was just like, I don't think I can touch that. So I'll just read Savage Dragon. So I read a lot of Savage Dragon and Youngblood and all of the like Rob Liefeld just like messing with anatomy and being like, yeah, it's kind of anatomy, but like it's also kind of not. And it's,
but it looks cool.
Yeah, it looks great on paper. And like, I understand what people are saying when they talk about, and I feel like Layfield's a very divisive artist. Of like people either really like him or really don't.
I like him. I follow him on socials and listen to his podcast. And
okay, yeah,
I
like his stuff. Like that for me are the comics that I grew up with. And reading Incision, like it feels like it was lifted out of like 1996 and deposited into 2024. And awesome. It like it fits right in line with it, and the action is great, and the like just the different types of people, like the Jacks, and that are coming out of when everything got hijacked, and then like the body modifications too, with like that cyberpunk feel. It all just feels very much like, man, this dude just took stuff out of my brain and you've just put it into a comic, and it's super freaking fun. It's full of energy, and I can't wait for issue 2. And I love, you beat me to the punch. So it's going to be a 5 issue. Now, are you, having done the collected 5 with Abducted, are you going to do the similar thing where once the issues are out, then you might do a collected trade version of it? Or are you just going to keep it with the floppies and that's going to be it? Or have you gotten that far yet?
I have thought about it, and I appreciate all the kind words, by the way. Thank you very much. Yeah, I have thought about it. I would like to. I'll see if the interest is there by the end of, once it's complete. If I think, maybe a campaign can fund, or, fund it some other way. But I think, once it's finished, selling it, at least at like conventions, I think trade paperback would be a cool way to go. I could put some bonus stuff in the back again and, make it fun. Yeah. So I think that will be the plan down the road, but problem for another day.
Right. It's a future you problem, right?
Right. Hopefully printing prices might come down a little in the years to come. We'll see.
Yeah, let's hope. Jeez, they're
I doubt it,
easy right now.
Yeah, they're killing me.
So I wanted to talk about like your process, because the campaign for issue 2 launches on the 27th of August. And the pre-launch link is in the description. And then after the campaign goes live on the 27th, I'll update that link with the current live campaign link, so that anybody that watches or listens to this can find it very easily. But like, the campaign hasn't even started, and you're posting pictures of like inked pages of issue 3 already. And I just like, that blows my mind, because I've backed a bunch of Kickstarters. And like, there's some that they launched the campaign and the book isn't even done yet. And you're like, yeah, I'm already halfway through the next issue. Like, let's go. Like, how do you get that far ahead? Like, are you just like a super fast when you're creating the art, or is it just like a very methodical pace and planning and all of that enables you to have that kind of lead time?
more methodical than fast. I'm not like a crazy fast artist. Um, I will like give myself quite a bit of lead time. Like I had made issue one of Incision. I'd probably had it finished close to a year before the campaign,
Okay.
which helped a lot because that just gave me all this room to kind of catch up. Um, I sympathize with people that have to launch campaigns when they don't have the book fully completed because they can't. That's what they're raising money for.
Yeah.
A lot of people they have to hire artists. If they're a writer or if they're a publisher or an editor, they've got to hire a team. Um, and so you need that campaign money to pay people and get the work done. So I sympathize with that. Luckily, I'm kind of able to do most of it myself. I'd say writing is my weakest point, so I just pull in help from my friends, and um, I can do the art. I hire out for coloring a lot just because that's so time intensive. So I
Yeah.
work with a really talented colorist named Maya Opachik. She colored Abducted, and she's coloring Incision. She's coloring Tights,
Mm.
also from lesser known comics.
Yeah.
She's coloring all kinds of books. So everybody give her a follow on like Instagram because she's awesome. Let's see. I do lettering myself. I do the design, like put the book together in like a format for the printer.
Yeah.
I do all that kind of stuff for my day job. So I'm a graphic designer, and so
Okay.
luckily I can do like 95% of it myself. So that really helps out, and when you can do that and you have that time
Yeah.
to get started early, it makes it look easier than it actually is.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about the team that you've got then. Like how did you as you were talking about, Abducted, I heard you mention the same your same writer that was on that with you. In Billy
Really,
Diamond
yeah.
Jr. And so like and so your colorist is the same way where like you worked with her. So like tell me about like how you've assembled this team around you that are helping make this comic together.
Yeah, so Billy and I grew up together,
Okay.
same hometown. Yeah, we're in the same grade. Really started hanging out a lot in high school, and then from then on, we were in middle school, he brought a trade paperback of Barry Windsor Smith's Weapon X to school, and I'd never seen that. I'd never come across that before, and I was like, "Who's this guy? Like, he's got this awesome book. I want that. Like, what the
Okay.
hell?"
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my first exposure to that storyline. I think I'd seen like trading cards with that art,
Yeah.
but I didn't know what it was from. So I saw that. I was like, damn, that is mind blowing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But yeah, so yeah, he and I, collaborate a lot. Over the years, we made a little one shot called Crudge of a character of his that he's bringing back in a new comic, kind of revamping it.
Yeah.
And we made a comic I drew that he wrote called Dr. Proton. There's like 3 printed issues of these. Like he's got them all and I've got them all.
That's awesome.
I wouldn't want anybody to see them. Uh, so yeah, we just, kind of doing that stuff. And then he's as big a fan of this early 90s stuff as I am. And so he got excited when I told him the idea. And so I asked him if he would help out with plotting and the scripting. So he was a big help with that. He figured out a lot of structure stuff. Like most of issue one, the writing is, it's like 90% him. I think I went in and, tweaked some dialogue stuff here and there.
Mm.
As we're getting further into the series, I'm getting a little more comfortable with that stuff. But it's still a collaborative effort because, yeah, that's not something I'd want to tackle fully on my own, I don't think.
Yeah.
At least not yet. So he's really a huge part of the team there. So then, yeah, Maya found Maya through Reddit, I think it was Reddit, looking for a colorist when we were putting Abducted together, because I can color. I colored the body. I can
Okay.
do it. It's just very daunting, and it's just so time consuming. And she can just kill it in a way I can't do. So
That's
I'm
cool.
happy to have her. And that's probably that's probably my biggest expense is like, coloring and flatting. He's artist named Tom Adamos, for the flatting, which is
Mm.
the step before coloring. And then outside of that, I can just do a lot of it myself. But and so, yeah, that's most of the team. Zach from Abducted, who wrote Abducted, is a consulting editor on issue 2.
Okay.
He helped me out a lot, with some, just some kind of storytelling stuff and some dialogue stuff. I had a whole. If this might be too much info right now, but issue 2 there's a lot of, you learn way more about the world than in issue 1. Issue 1,
Yeah.
you're kind of dropped into it, and it's explosive, and it's like, whoa, what is this? Issue 2, it's kind of like it's a little more expanding out, like, what is this world? What is this? What's going on in this story? And kind of getting that info across in a way that's where you're having people also try to speak naturally. It can
Yeah.
be it can be challenging. We've all, read comics or made comics where we're like, oh man, I could have handled that better.
Yeah.
So I turned it over to Zach. I was like, just pick this apart, and so he really helped me kind of restructure some things and say things in different ways, and
Mm.
a lot of like editing down, really, saying less and less to get more of the point across.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, he helped me out with that, and Brandon DePillis, of Lesser Known Comics, is actually doing the variant cover for issue 2, which looks awesome. You can check it out if you go to his Instagram, Facebook. You can find it easily. The campaign's launched. Go to the campaign page, and then when you're done, you hit the rewards tab and you pick a reward and you check out.
That's
And
right.
then let's see. So he did this awesome variant cover, and he helped me out kind of the same way Zach did, kind of looking over it. So he's
Mm.
got a like a consulting editor credit in there as well. So yeah, just pull in cool people that are willing to help out and are interested, and it's awesome.
That's
It's been
cool.
really fun, really smooth, really fun.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a consistent through line that I've heard from the other folks that I've talked that have done work through lesser known comics, is that it's very communal, and it's a great group of creators that just want to see each other's succeed. And I think that, like, the further I get into like the community of indie comics, the more and more that I see like the community really does just want everybody else in the community to succeed. And I think that that's so clutch, because if it's like, hey, I need help figuring this out, like, if somebody doesn't know, they might be like, oh, well, let me tag this person and, your replies or whatever. And like, they might be able to help you, even though I can't. Or, hey, let me shoot you a DM real quick. I got some ideas. And I just like, I love that community aspect, because it's weird societally, and not to get like super big brain, because that's not me. But like societally, it feels like in 2024, it's the easiest it's ever been to just isolate and silo yourself from everybody else, because, well, what if they feel differently, or what if they think differently, or believe or support differently, or whatever. And then I have gotten into this corner on social media of like all of these indie comics creators that are just supporting each other, and like, hey, if anybody wants to collaborate on like a crowdfunding campaign, like, I'll share yours if you share mine. And I actually got an update just this past week, and so I'm a backer of the campaign, and then the 3 recommended campaigns were all 3 previous guests on my show. And
Oh,
I
that's
was
awesome.
like, dude, this is like the
That's so
perfect,
cool.
like, I don't even know how to encapsulate this to post about it, to be like,
Right?
I freaking love seeing this. But like, it was one of those, just like, I'm not the only one that sees this. Like, this is so cool. And I just love that people like Brandon, even when I was talking to Brandon, he was saying like, yeah, once I got connected with Lesson in Comics, like I had people reaching out and going with me every step of the way. And, Adrian Kaleric was one of them. And I was like, I had Adrian on my show, and he was like, oh my God. And so it was just like, it's so wild to me that as big as the world can seem, when you really get into like indie comics and supporting indie creators, you start seeing how these circles then overlap, and you're like, oh, we're not actually in this alone. Like there's a group of people that all care about each other, and that's so cool.
It's funny. It's funny you mentioned that. Like, I did a convention in Texas like months ago. Uh, I was living in Kansas City at the time,
Mhm.
and the guys in the booth beside us, as Billy and I, there were indie comics guys, and we were start chatting, and we knew like a bunch of the same people, and like yeah, it's a small world, but it's a lot of fun.
That's cool. And I
I did want
love
to
that.
mention one more thing that I
Yeah.
forgot to mention. So you're talking about the team for issue one. There's one more member of the team, which is Eli Fivestone. And if you don't know Eli, he
Mm.
drew the Tick back in the '90s
Yeah.
when the creator of the Tick left to make the cartoon, and he did this. Or sorry, so this is Eli's
Okay.
variant cover, printed in the back of the standard, kind of a
That's
bonus
awesome.
thing. But yeah, just wanted to give him a call out. Pretty
Yeah.
cool, dude.
Yeah. And that's such a cool pinup too. Of just like holding the anatomical heart, like
Yeah.
blood splurting.
He asked, he said, "Can I just do anything I want?" I was like, "Do whatever you want. I'll print it." That's what he
Right.
came up with. Yeah. Pretty gnarly.
That's so cool. And I love too, like that you found your colorist on Reddit. Like that's another avenue that keeps coming up. And I'm learning that people that uh, listen to and watch the show are also like kind of on their path of figuring out how to make comics. So, like, how did you ever find out about that Reddit to begin with? Or was it just like, I just need to find a colorist. How do I find a colorist? Oh, there's a subreddit. Like, is it that simple?
I had no idea. So, like, the only thing close to this back in the day, like early 2000s, was digital webbing used to have like a message board back
Okay.
when people used message boards, and
Yeah.
it was kind of people making their own comics, like, hey, what scanner do you use? What,
Mm,
this and that. And uh, so that was kind of my only exposure for a long time. And people would kind of network that way. And then it feels like between then and now, like the world just changed immensely.
yeah.
And so, around 2018, when we're putting this together, I was like, yeah, we need a colorist. We, yeah, I think I'd come across like a subreddit that was like for making comics or collaborative, comic makers. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah.
Or I might have even typed in comic colorist for hire. Um, and I made a post, had a few people hit me up, looked through their, portfolios and, kind of got prices from people, got quotes. And Maya, I want to say that was her first major project.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, I'm sure her, I'm hope she was happy that that was her first project because we were certainly happy to get her.
Yeah.
I feel like it was a real get there. So yeah, that's Reddit. I guess people probably use social, uh, probably Facebook a lot
Hmm.
now too, also for finding people for connecting that kind of stuff. I mean, there's no shortage of people out there that are doing what you need done, or
Yeah.
you know, it's just kind of you can find somebody that you can get along with or work with, and they're dependable, you're dependable in return, and it can just be a really smooth process.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just, so I'm not a huge like Facebook user. I have one, but it's kind of out of necessity at this point, like because so many things connect to Facebook. And actually, to stream live from StreamYard, which is the platform I use, to
Mm.
my Instagram, I had to have a Facebook page connected to my Instagram as like a business portfolio,
Yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
as a business page or whatever, which I was like, that's kind
I,
of weird.
I have to do that. Yeah, I have to do that to run ads if I run ads for a campaign.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's a
super
pain in the
weird, but
butt.
like I was on Facebook for something, and I think to get like free energy in a stupid game that I play or whatever. Um and I like got a notification that another post punk from the show, Ken, had just joined a Facebook group of like comic writers and artists.
Oh,
And
that's
I was
cool.
like, what is this group? And so I hopped into it, and it's like a group designed for writers to find artists. So,
Oh,
like, the
cool.
majority of the posts that I was looking at is a bunch of artists. Like, here's some sample pages, here's a splash page or a cover, like, message me for whatever. And I was like, that's a really cool resource. That so I was like, I mean, I'm not even like actively legitimately writing anything at this point, but I know I want to, so like I'm gonna join this group. And it just like it
Awesome.
that's one of those, like, social media can is what you put into it. And so if all you ever do is just doom scroll and do all the rage baiting stuff or whatever, like that's all you're going to get out of it. But if you use it as a connection tool and like having conversations and, supporting people and all of these things, like it can be a really cool place to be, which is weird to say because I've had a very rocky relationship with social media. Um, and I really wanted to get rid of all of it. And then I started this show, and I was like, well, not going to be active on social media again because I have this show,
Right.
and like that's how I'm going to find people or whatever. And so then, but now I'm like, no, I'm having more fun in 2024 on social media than I think I have in like 10 years,
That's
because
good to
I'm just,
hear.
like
That's awesome.
finding and like being able to reach out to you directly, like, hey, I really like this book. Like, do you want to, when you do the next one, like, you want to come on? I've done that. Like Blake with Territory, the
Yeah,
Territory
yeah, yeah.
series. I did the same thing with him. I was like, hey man, I have been loving your series. I know it's about to wrap up. Like, next time you launch, do you want to come on? And so he's going to be on in a couple weeks, actually. I'll be talking to
Awesome.
him. So it's just like, it's so, it's so cool to me that I can just message somebody and be like, hey, I like your books, want to talk? And like everybody so far has been like, yeah, I would love to. And
Yeah.
I just think it's cool. So thank you for being cool enough to be like, yeah, let's talk.
Well, thank
And
you for
being
backing the books and then also reaching out about the interview because, yeah, this has just been great. Yeah.
awesome. Well, great. All right. Now that we've had a proper, just like love gushing moment, let me hit you with some hard hitting questions here. This
All
is where
right.
I put on my official report. These are not hard hitting questions at all. So, in your world, you've got folks with body mods and you've got jacks. Which would you rather be, and what would your enhancement be?
And I would, if I was living in that world, probably body mods because at least you have some level of control.
Yep.
Because if you're a jack, which yes, it's my version of mutants or metahumans, um, you know, and but if that were real, you'd have no control. You might end up with like you know fingers coming out of your eyeballs that you couldn't do anything with. Um, so yeah, probably body mod. Also, it looks cooler. You can walk around with like metal arms or something. It
Yeah.
just look a lot cooler.
Yep, that's where I went as well. I think I would rather body mod. I don't know what it would be. It's something to make me run faster, or like run without getting winded because asthma sucks. So if I
I've
could
got a
get like
guy.
cyber
Yeah.
lungs, I think I'd be good.
I was gonna say I've got a guy in issue one who has a metal neck. His
Yeah,
head's his head's normal, torso's normal, metal neck. What's the story behind that? Haven't figured it out yet.
great. I love that. With with Frank. So I know you already talked about like Wolverine and the X-Men. Is there the way that his jack ability works is fast? Like, how did you think about like the scarring and how it increases as he heal? Like, how did you? Where did that come from? It's such a cool idea.
Well, thank you. I wanted him to be visually distinct. So when I was designing the character, I was kind of putting these body markings on him, and I was like, well, that's kind of cool. How can I justify that?
Mm,
And then, this is not a rip-off character, so I didn't want, oh, he heals or whatever. So no, it's actually there is something inside him that is just stitching him back together. If that thing were not there, he would be a normal person and just die or whatever.
Yeah.
So this thing that is just stitching him back together, as that happens over time, it kind of takes over more and more of his surface area, so to speak, and kind of these cool designs. So if you look at his face, I was kind of trying to evoke, I know, like Gambit and Archangel from X-Men. They have these masks
Mm.
that have these kind of cool angular shapes,
Yeah.
and I was like, I can't justify a mask like that, but what if I just made like a skin pattern that kind of mimics something like that? So that was kind of the idea there, is just taking these things that I enjoy and kind of finding a way to fit them into the character and into the world. So I'm glad you asked that, because yeah, that was a fun thing to kind of figure out.
Let's see. I was wondering if the lines that came down were intentional, because there's a Valiant comic character, Ray, however people pronounce it. I call him Rye, but he had the same thing where he's like a
Oh, okay.
cybernetic
Oh,
um,
okay.
cyborg in like the year 4001, and he's got instead of hair, it's just all like synthetic, and it comes down and
Oh,
it's darker like that. And I was like, that's
well,
such a
that's cool.
cool look.
Not real familiar with Valiant, but if I saw the character, I was like, oh, maybe I saw that years ago, and that
Yeah.
was one of the inspirations. I have gotten comments on the Mohawk, where people bring up Dakin, who is Wolverine's
Oh
son,
yeah.
I guess.
Yep.
I just have to say, if you like Dakin, great, you'll love this. I don't know Dakin. I've never read a comic with Dakin in it.
Yeah.
I was trying to come up with like a distinctive look and a distinctive profile. I was like, well, let's go with the Mohawk. That's always a cool thing. So
That's right. It is.
yeah,
That's right. It
that's
is.
right.
I'm just gonna casually look over.
Wish I could
Yeah.
pull that off.
Years, man, years and years of training, and I
That's
just
awesome.
I'm to a point now too where like I have a really good barber.
Oh, nice.
And I've put 3 other barbers out of business where they like, I know it wasn't me personally, but after the first one, I was like, okay, yeah, you're gonna stop cutting hair, got it. After the second one, I was like, okay, you're gonna have a kid and start a family, and okay, got it. After the third one, I was like, okay. And so now that I've got my guy Miguel, 5 Star Studios, Middletown, Ohio, if you want a good haircut. I'm gonna see him
Nice.
tomorrow, and just, this is ridiculous right now. But yeah,
Epic.
like it's it matters. Those things matter. It doesn't happen naturally, even though it does happen naturally. I don't know why I'm still talking about my hair. So when in Incision, back to your books and not me, because I'm not the point. So there's a couple
It's
times
entertaining me, man.
great. It's a conversation, right? It's a give and
Right?
take. I'm very intentional, by the way, to like, and this is another little mini micro soapbox of like, I want all of these to be conversations. I don't ever want to be like, oh, I'm interviewing so and so, because that feels formal, and
Right.
that's not me. Like, it's a back and forth, and I've had other people on the show that have like, hang on, well, no, I want to ask you some questions. And so we've done that. And like, I hope that the intentionality of making these conversational comes through
Oh yeah,
because,
it's super fun too.
yeah, like we're fans of comic books. Like, let's just be fans and have fun. And just keep everything positive. Like, just, that's
Exactly.
the point,
Yeah, we get away from the world, we get into this stuff to get away from all that crap.
Yes. Why would we bring negativity into our hobbies? Like, I don't understand the like rage bait people or the hate watchers or hate readers that read stuff and then they just complain about it online. Like, what do you do? What is so bad with your life that that's what
I
you
am a
do?
I am a doom scroller though, I have to admit, which is
Oh,
bad.
sure. Yeah.
But you can't, I mean, if you're scrolling, it's going to turn into doom at some point.
Right. As soon as I get to the point where I'm like quickly tapping through Instagram stories just to clear them out, or just like I'm not reading anything, I'm just scrolling, I just close the app. Like, I just need to be done now.
Yeah,
I'm just done now.
throw the phone across the room.
Right. If I didn't need it for like so many different facets of my life, I would totally get rid of it. But
Right.
I need it for a lot.
Same here,
Um,
man. Same here.
so all right, so in the books, you keep dropping, like, I feel like you're dropping really big pieces of story and then you're just leaving them alone. And as somebody that wants to know all of the things all the time, um, are we gonna find out like what the hijack was or how it happened or how half the world ended? Like, are we gonna, is that gonna be revealed in your 5 issues?
So I am being pretty intentional in like how I'm going about that. So
Okay,
you are going to get quite a bit more answers. The point of the book isn't really the hijack. That's just kind of to set up the scenario. But
sure.
I do want to. You can't throw something like that out and not, kind of explain it somewhat.
Right.
So it will factor into the plot more heavily in issue 3 and in big time in issue 4. I would say 4 is kind of where a lot of those type of answers are going to be revealed.
Okay.
I'm toying with whether or not to do some flashbacks. I'm trying to.
Mm,
I want to find a cool way to do it, but that's what I'm thinking so far, and it'll tie into the current storyline, um, and kind of give you Frank's perspective when that happened, because he may or may not have been a critical player in certain events that
mm,
had to do with that. And so I'm still, part of it is still fleshing that out story wise, and then another part of it is figuring out how I want to tell it. Um, so yeah, that's it. It's fun. I think I've got a pretty good handle on where to take it. Um, so that's kind of all I can say right now for that.
fair enough. Great. I'm just happy to know that I'm gonna find out more because I was like,
Oh yeah,
what is happening?
I want anybody who reads it to be to feel satisfied, to enjoy it
Mm,
at some level, whether that's just looking at the art or you dig the story or whatever. Like, I don't want anybody to read it and be like, man, he dropped this. This should have been. This needed another 2 issues, or
yeah,
I want it to be a tight little 5 issue package, but I want it to have a self-contained story that fulfills on its promises. So
yeah,
that's the goal. So I hope I deliver by the end of this whole thing.
yeah. I do love that each of the first 2 issues ends in a cliffhanger that you're also like, wait a second, what? And I like that, to me is like really good single issue storytelling, because I know, like, again, with the climate of kind of the big two, everything is, well, like, we're going to look for a collected trade of 4 to 6 issues. So write us a 4 to 6 issue story. And the emphasis then becomes the whole thing instead of like the sequential issue by issue, because each issue has to matter too. And so you've given enough weight to Frank. And then as we find out Counterforce as well, of like, oh, they've got a whole lot going on, and then you're giving just enough that it keeps building on what you've already laid out without feeling like, oh yeah, I'm just telling the same thing, or like, oh, this is just part 2, got it, okay. Like each issue feels like it could be a standalone thing. And so, like, as somebody that's been reading comics for 30 plus years, I really appreciate that because
Yeah,
it's,
yeah.
it's not always done well. So
Well, thank
um
you. Yeah, that was intentional. Again, early mid '90s. Mainly Marvel for me. I read a few Image things, but again, I was pretty religious, so like Spawn, off the table, stuff like that.
yep.
But
Yep.
yeah, those issues, you'd end with a cliffhanger, and you had an overarching story, but you had a
Mhm.
story also within just that one issue, whether it's a mission or a relationship, something that happens. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do here. And so far, each issue kind of is its own unique locale too. Like issue 1 is mainly in like this alternate universe, Las Vegas. Issue 2, we get more cyberpunk. We go to a floating island city, artificial city. Um, issue 3 I'm drawing right now. A lot of that takes place in like a nightclub and like a villain's lair
Mm.
kind of setting. A lot of stuff like that. A lot of action in 3. I've got an idea for 4. I've got an idea for how I'm going to wrap it up in 5. And so that's kind of the plan. Like have each one be satisfying on its own, but tell this 5 issue series. And I kind of want to lay it all out there where if I never make another one of these, it's fine. You have a whole story there, and if I want to leave it open to doing more later with the character or other characters from it, I might do that. I haven't decided yet, kind of, but yeah, that's kind of. I'm glad you picked up on that. I appreciate it because yeah, that was pretty intentional.
Yeah. Yeah, and giving each book, I didn't notice the like intentionality of each issue is in a separate location. Because that also makes it feel very unique and standalone, because then you can have, like settings that are only like, oh, well, yeah, Vegas. So like, yeah, that's the first one, and that's where we get all of this information in the first one, and that's a nice writing element to include to differentiate things. There is, I'm not going to give away the things. There's a montage scene in the second issue that the page layouts. It's the double page
Yeah,
splash.
double page spread. Yeah.
Man, I love those two pages together.
Oh, thanks, man.
Just the way that you've got Frank on the one half, and then so you see the like up close emotion, and you're reading his thoughts as you're seeing these montages as things are developing. I was like, man, this is really cool. Like this is just cool comics. And
Thanks, man.
yeah, I
Yeah, that
like,
was fun. I'm not like I'm getting more comfortable with double page spreads and like strategically placing them, to have the most impact.
yeah,
And that one I thought, this is a montage scene. I should do this as a double page spread and I can have them kind of framed as like background elements almost and then have these smaller panels that kind of tell this story
yep,
within that. So that it was a lot of fun to do. So
that's cool.
um thanks, man.
Yeah, yeah, I really liked that. What does this mean? Can't, nope. Okay. I don't know what that note means, so we're just gonna skip it. So with the having like going into it knowing that you're going to do 5 issues, are you like when you're planning all of that, do you already have like issue 1 is this, issue 2 is this, issue 3 covers this beat? Like how much of that skeleton for the overarching story do you have before you started working on the individual issues?
Kind of like you just said, I'd say like a sentence for each issue. Like
Okay.
this issue is about or this issue contains, this, and this. Um, he gets to this point on his journey. This issue, is about this, and this. We meet the, arch villain or whatever. Um, so that's kind of where it was for a while. At the point I'm at now, I've got uh, 3. It's like it's written to a point where I can start drawing pages,
Mm.
and then I'll go back in and like edit the hell out of dialogue and stuff
Yeah.
after. But to get it to the point, because I'll write to be drawn. I'll write it to knowing I'm going to draw it, so it's not like a full script. It's just what I need. I kind of write like the beats of a page,
Yeah.
and then some dialogue, and that's really all I need to make it into a page. And that's kind of how I like to, if I'm like drawing somebody else's script, that's kind of what I enjoy more. I don't
Mm.
really like a full script where like panel layouts and camera angles are all determined for me. Like that kind of takes a lot of the fun out of it. Like I just want the beats and the dialogue, and I like to figure out, how can I make the page look coolest within that.
Mm.
Sorry, getting off topic a little, but
No, that's good.
um, so that's and so now so I've got 3 basically written. I'll go in and I'll edit text and stuff. 4 is the one that I'm kind of more in the plotting um, I know, I know what's going to happen in the issue at the start to the end. I've got to go in. It'll be after this campaign finishes up because, yeah, I'll have to take a little mental health break and then jump. That'll be a fun thing to jump into.
Yeah.
Kind of plot that out, scene by scene, who's going to be in it, what's going to happen, kind of get the specifics, and then after that, probably work with Billy to get a script put together, and then kind of the same thing for the last one. I just have ideas. Actually, I have more ideas for the last one than any of the others because you're in the shower or something. You're thinking, oh man, what if in the ending? I don't want to say it. I've got some cool ideas that I think you specifically will appreciate and enjoy a lot. More things that from our childhood that I have cool ways to express stuff like that in a
Cool.
way that fits. Anyway, so I have ideas like that. I'll grab my phone in the shower and like try to
Yeah.
get wet, put a note in, and put it back. So I've got like all these notes. I've just got a ton of notes written, and I've just got to go in and like structure it, plot it out. So yeah, that's kind of how that works.
That's cool. That's it's good to know that other people have that, because I just last week I woke up and I had this like really just like terrorizing dream, and I was like, that would be an awesome like 6-page horror comic. And so I immediately like grabbed my phone and came into my office and just started like voice recording, and I was just talking about everything that I could remember from the dream. And I was like, I'll
That's
just
so
figure out
smart.
everything later, like I just need to get this down, because and even
Yeah.
as I was like halfway through it, I was starting to forget some of the details. And like I have random I sometimes I'm like a sociopath and I'll drive in just complete silence, and it's when I'm driving in silence that I'll have this like bizarre thought that just comes in. And it could just be like a premise, it could be an idea for a character. Like I have a character that I've thought of, and I'm like, that would be really cool. And I was driving, and so I was like, whatever, turned off Bluetooth and just started doing like voice memo. Like, all right, so there's this guy, and
Perfect.
it's
That's
like
perfect.
I have notes all over in my phone, and I just need to like actually sit down and commit to one. It's just hard when you have ADHD like I do, because it's like I just always want to have more ideas. And
Right.
the other day when I was walking, I was like, you know what? I could probably take like 4 or 5 of the ideas that I've jotted down and probably make like one story out of them, instead of each idea being its own
Oh yeah, there you go.
story. And I was like, that could be like I could already have like a whole story written. This is
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah. It's already in your phone.
Right. It's
That's
already
awesome,
there.
dude.
I already did the hard work. The
Yeah.
idea's there. But like
That's so
as
smart about
somebody,
writing down your dreams. Like I'll have that too, like really cool dreams, and then I'm like,
yeah,
oh, I'll remember it, and then sure enough,
you don't.
never.
You never do. Yeah, I learned a long time ago uh, that if I wake up and I have a dream, I just need to put it down. As long as, because like my wife will be like, well, I had this dream that you were being a jerk and we were going to the movies and you just wouldn't hold my hand and whatever. And I'm like, that's what your dream is? Like I had a dream that I was on a moon base and I had to rescue these 2 kids that were abducted from Earth and taken to moon against their will, and I had to break them out and get them back to.
Sold.
And she's like,
Sold. I want to
what?
read it.
She's like,
I'm
that's
ready
what
to
your
read
dream
it.
was? I was like, yeah, I can tell you what kind of like gear I had on, and the doors had different portals on them to like keep the oxygen in. So you had to time the escape. And she was just like, what? Why does your brain work like that? I'm like, I have no idea. I don't know.
But it's awesome.
I like it. It has stuck with me. So,
It's all the
um,
hard work. Yeah, your brain does all the hard work while you're asleep.
yeah, yeah.
You need to make. Yeah, I would read that in a heartbeat.
Like it kind of, I was telling her about it and she was like, so like that movie with Matt Damon where he's like Elysium or whatever, I think that's what it was called. And I was like, well, kind of, but
It
like,
sounded more to me like Taken in space.
yeah, yeah, it's like a combination of, and I think both those movies came out in the same time, so like and that's this
Hey,
dream has been with me for like 10 years. But yeah, I like, as somebody that can do that's getting more comfortable with the writing but also has a hold on the artwork and all of the like, how do you not just be like, I'm quitting my job and I'm just going to make all the comics all the time because I have all of these things that I can just do all on my own? Like, how, I know money, but like, how
Yeah,
does,
probably the stack of bills in the corner. I don't know, like, yeah, I haven't done a whole lot of like work for hire. I've done some
Mm,
illustration work for hire, like non-comics related, and a little bit of comics related work for hire, but just a tiny bit. I don't want the joy to get sucked out of it. If you
mm,
know,
yeah,
I don't know. It's I'm a control freak too, so like if I'm in charge, I can do it the way I want to do it,
yeah,
and it's just more fun. And so I'm enjoying the way I'm doing it now, and I can get my stuff out in a time frame that I'm pretty happy with. So it's working for me right now. So as long as I'm having fun, I'll just keep doing it this way, I guess.
yeah. That's great. I love that. I love that answer. Because too many people overlook the fact that like I have a bunch of hobbies. And one of them I do like wood burning stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so like anytime I go, I also officiate weddings.
Nice.
So anytime that we go to a wedding that I officiate, I will burn like their initials and the date and some cutesy wedding stuff, whatever, and like make a little wooden magnet out of them and like give it to people. And I have people all the time like, why aren't you selling those? I'm like, because I don't want to sell them. Like I just like doing this. And
Yeah, yeah.
I like being able to give it because not I don't know anybody else that does that. And I like being able to give people like having a tangible thing because I'm not a good artist and I know that and that's fine. I'm
Yeah,
much
that's awesome.
more in the writing
Having a
vein, but
That's so
like I
cool to have like a yeah, like you said, a tangible thing that they have on this special day. Like that's
yeah. And
from
I
the
like
officiant.
right. And it's like, yeah, I just want to like give you something for your wedding. So here. And it's cool going to those people's houses after the wedding and like still seeing the magnet on their fridge. And the
Yeah.
one couple's like, the only reason that we remember the date is because of that magnet that you gave us. I'm
Oh,
like,
that's
awesome.
hilarious.
So, but like having something tangible for me has never been a thing because I've always been a tech person and like video
Yeah.
and my histories and broadcasting and doing radio shows and stuff. And my sister has always been the tangible like artist and painting and all that stuff. And now our roles have reversed where now she's doing like she's a personal trainer. And
Huh?
so she like has gotten really big into like competitive bodybuilding
Oh,
and
nice.
all of that stuff. And so it's like, well, you can't like take that thing and make it a tangible thing because it's about the progress that you're making. And now I'm like, yeah, but I'm like making these things and I have this stuff and then whatever. So
Yeah,
like, is there? I know having the trait of like abducted, going from web to print was a thing of like, no, I want to be able to hold it. Like, is that
exactly.
still like an excitement for you of like
Exactly.
I'm gonna be able to hold this thing that came out of my brain?
Yeah. For sure. I mean, yeah, when making abducted, like we do, as a web comic, it would help us psychologically to finish it because
Mm,
we didn't know if we could finish it. We didn't know if we could finish one issue. We didn't, know anything of
yeah.
how it would go. And so the idea was, well, let's just post a few pages at a time. Let's not worry about issues. So it was broken up into chapters, which are issues, but they didn't come out all at once. It was, if I finish a page, we'll post it. And so, but again, I drew it in a comic format at, high resolution
Hmm.
because I wanted all that material when it's done because I definitely wanted to print it. I'd printed a few things. I worked in a print shop long years ago, and
Okay.
after hours, I'd print my own comics, like a few copies, like 3 or 4
That's so
copies.
rad.
Uh, Nobody knew about, but as far as like a full color comic in a pretty decent quantity, I had done that before and was excited to do it. I used Comics Wellspring back in 2020. They've been great, really high quality stuff. Um, got the books in. I was like, man, these look awesome. These look better than I thought they would. Like you see the colors and you see everything on the screen, and you're checking proofs and you're doing lettering or whatever. and everything's so blown up, you kind of get lost in like the details. And
Yeah.
once you see it like printed, like the way it's supposed to be, and the things you agonize over are like, oh, I don't like this face or something. And then when it's printed, the face is like that big,
Yeah.
you just like, man, this is awesome. Like it's something really to be proud of, And so seeing it in print does that for me. Um, so yeah,
That's
that's
cool.
what I love. Yeah, you can web comics. It's the same thing for some people, but for me, it's print. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I was honestly kind of surprised at the paperweight, to get like super nerdy of the first book of Incision. Like those
I
pages
agonize.
thick.
I agonize over printing specs, like
Mm,
paper choices and finishes. Like, do I go glossy? Do I go uncoated? Mark, who runs Lesser Known Comics, he really likes uncoated interior pages. But
okay.
for a book like this, like I want, it felt like it's in the vein of those Image, Marvel, early '90s things. Like that stuff's
Yeah.
over the top. I want it over the top paper, so I want it glossy. Um, and it's really cool. I'm toying with trying out like an uncoated or a satin on the next one just to kind of
Mm,
see, you know, colors can look different, art can look different. I love
yeah.
to nerd out over that stuff. I think the
That's
covers
awesome.
I'll keep satin. I think I went with satin. But yeah, sorry to get into the weeds there.
No, I wanted you to like it
Yeah, yeah.
because it was something that I noticed because again I've backed a bunch of Kickstarters and I've had everything from like the newsprint and even like there's some smaller publishers that do everything like black and white on newsprint and that's what they put out. And like when I get them
I love
like
that. I love those newsprint comics
yeah,
too. Like everything has its place, and the
right.
artwork can fit it. Like there's an art style that works really well with newsprint, and a coloring style that works really well with newsprint. It doesn't work with the super glossy stuff. So
Right.
I mean, yeah, I love it all. Yeah,
I think it's great that you're even thinking like on brand of the like 90s with how you're printing too. Like that's rare air I think that you're breathing because I don't know that many other creators are putting that much thought into it. Which only reinforces the fact that everybody needs to go click the link in the description and just go to the campaign page and then find the rewards and back the book. Because like that's kind of the point. Because we need to get all of the issues together. Because I need all 5 of these issues. I am really enjoying Incision. I love it. Um,
appreciate
I'm
it, man. One thing that you mentioned about the processes.
yeah.
There is one thing I'd love to do. I don't know if it'll be feasible, but like one of those hologram foil covers,
Oh yeah, yeah,
just like the most outlandish. Like that's on the bucket list.
yeah.
I think it would fit for Incision
There
somewhere in
you
there.
go.
Maybe the last one,
I was gonna say maybe save that for issue 5 and just go like
right?
completely balls to the wall, just like everything over the top.
Holographic rainbow foil.
Perfect. Yes.
Uh,
Yep. Have or like the UV spotlighting of just the blades or something, so that
yeah,
like
I could do like Kiss and like put my own blood in the printing ink somehow.
perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally normal things that comic creators do. So here at once I run out of my notes, I always like to flip the script a little bit. And so a large part of why I do this show is to give indie creators a voice and a platform to get their message across. So if there's anything that you want people to hear, anything that's on your heart, on your mind, it could be about Incision. It could be about turtles. The content doesn't matter to me. What matters is that people hear what you want them to hear. So I'm going to stop talking and the floor is yours to share whatever it is that you've got on your mind.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, this is the big thing I've got going on right now. I'm just trying to get, as many backers, as much support as I can on it. I'm more concerned with backer count than like revenue, because what I want are readers. That's what we all want as creators. We want readers. And so that's a big priority for me. That's why I like doing shows. That's why I like, doing the social media marketing, getting the message out there. So if you are at all interested in anything you've heard today, I mean, if just please check it out, because that's the biggest thing for creators like us. We put all this work and just hours and hours and hours of work, as because you do it as well. And we want, people to hopefully like it and appreciate it. I even like it when people like give me a bad review. If it's like,
Mm.
if I know they read it, I'm like, whoa, they read they read my comic. That's awesome. Like I'll even get a kick out of that, even if it's a bad review, because that's one more person that read my work. So yeah, I guess if I had to get anything across, just take a chance on a book called Incision. Got issue 1 and 2 coming to Kickstarter very, very soon. And if you see this after August 27th till September 27th, I guess, then you can get it at that time.
Cool. Yeah, and they definitely should, because it quickly jumped into one of my favorite series that I have been getting into through Kickstarter. So
That means so much to me, man. I appreciate that's such a boost, honestly.
cool.
Thank you.
Great. And it's not just lip service. I'm not telling everybody that comes on the show like, yeah, your book's my favorite. Like, there's a lot of really good indie books. There's a lot of really cool creators, and there's a lot of really awesome stories that are coming out. And it's 2024 is just a comic reader's dream, because
It really is.
we have so many things, that we can get into right now. All genres, all styles, all the things. If there's a thing that you want and it's not happening, this is the best time to just make it happen. And there's plenty of tools, and it's just great.
I'm at the point now. I have my own long box just for indie stuff, because it's like I'm at that point that like I read more of that than like mainstream stuff.
Yep.
A lot of mainstream I'll read like digitally now, because like I don't need to own the issues. Like I just want to keep up with the storyline. But the indie stuff I like to have I'll read in print if I can, or read digital. If I can't swing a print. But yeah, I like to have. It's growing so much that I've got it. It's got its own long box now.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Nice.
Surprisingly not, I was like, if I'm going to be a show called The Long Box Punk, I at least need to have a long box of my indie books, right? Like, okay, yeah. And so I'm buying less and less books at my comic shop, because I'm reading less and less from the big two, and I'm reading more and more from Kickstarter and Indiegogo and Fund My Comic and Zoop, and here's another one that I'm forgetting. But this is where the magic is happening. Like, this is where creative freedom is happening. This is where people that I'm finding are similar, we're similar in age. And so a lot of the stuff that you're like, you know what, I miss the over the top action 90s books. Guess what? So do I. That's because I was there the first time. And
what you need.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just like you find your people, and then suddenly you've got really awesome creators that are being successful and getting their craft honed and put out there and in people's hands. And that's the beauty and the goal of the whole thing. So at this point, I'm just I'm riding on the high of indie comics and doing the show. And I appreciate you hanging out with me, Jay, and taking some time, hang out after the fact. I've got some logistical stuff for you. But that's going to be it for this interview. We made it through another episode. I can't wait for you guys to get Incision issues 1 and 2 in your hands. Again, August 27th it launches, and it'll run for a full month. I'm sure I'll be blasting out the links all over the place on all of the social media sites. So stay tuned for all of those things. Yeah, that's gonna. Any final words?
Well, thank you again, Chris, for having me on. This has been a blast. I had a great time.
Awesome. That's the perfect way to end this. What's a good podcast without a good tagline? So that's going to be it for this one, punks. Now go do what's good for you and read some indie comics. We're out of here.